A great ending for the Bengals for a change. Mike Petraglia inside AT&T Stadium, alongside or close to it, Richard Skinner, who is, I think, a couple of levels above me here at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. This is the Jungle Roar Skinny Bengals postgame pod following a dramatic and very bizarre, I'd say, 27-20 Bengals victory over the Dallas Cowboys here on Monday night. The Bengals actually win a primetime game, their first win this year in primetime in 4 tries. And I think most importantly, Skinny, they got the job done. They finished the game, something Jamar Chase talked about following his 40-yard touchdown that gave the Bengals a margin of victory with 61 seconds to go.
How apropos was it that it was Jamar Chase that scores the touchdown to win it after he was just so great during the game? But what a wacky ending to have a punt blocked on a guy who allowed the punt block, Muma Jameta. He let Nick Vigil, the former Bengals linebacker, to get through. He blew a block, clearly blew it. You watch the replay, there's no doubting it. Zach Taylor alluded to it without rolling him under the bus. And yet then he decides after the punt's blocked to kind of follow the ball. And a Cowboys player, despite their defensive or their special teams coordinator get away, I guarantee you it's been repped a billion times, been talked about a billion times. It was a player who and I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. Number 27 is what I'm going to call him. His name's too hard for me to pronounce. But he had just come off IR, and so it's his first game back, and he tries to field it down the field, touches it, bobbles it, and who recovers it? Muma Jameta. And I think that's what a perseverance story, in my opinion, that listen, I asked Akeem Davis-Gaither after the game because Muma didn't want to talk, and I get it. He's a polite kid. He even said, he goes, do I have to talk? I said, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to talk if you don't want to talk. And he said, I'd rather not talk because he knows he was an inch from blowing it. And Akeem Davis-Gaither, special teams captain who started tonight at linebacker, said, what did it say about Muma? He goes, saved his career, man. Recovering that fumble saved his career. And I'm thinking, he probably did because he almost committed a huge blunder on a team that just seems to find a way to lose. And it kind of almost found a way to lose that with the block punt. And then they find a way to win. Crazy finish to a crazy season.
All Dallas had to do was literally not touch
Get out of the way.
Run the other way. And the ghost of Leon Letts saved the Bengals here on Monday night. There's no question about it. Of course, a lot of fans of our generation, Skinny, remember that play Thanksgiving 1993, actually in Dallas at the old Cowboys Stadium, of course, in Irving, Texas. Same thing happened in the snow and the ice, and it gave the Dolphins the win that day. Today, it gives the Bengals the victory. A few numbers, and then I want to get into the storylines post-game, and there were a number of
huge.
Okay. Joe Burrow, 33 of 44 for 369 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to Jamar Chase, the other to Chase Brown. And Jamar Chase, 14 catches on 18 targets. You heard that right. 18 times he was targeted by Joe Burrow here on Monday night. Jamar Chase ends with 177 yards, the 2 touchdowns. He now has 15 touchdown receptions this year for the Bengals. That's 2 shy of the club record. I thought it was funny, Skinny, that Dan Horde asked him after the game, asked Jamar, any thoughts of sliding down at maybe the 5-yard line and allow, obviously the insinuation there is, kill the clock, have it come down to a last-second field goal, game over, don't give Dallas the ball back. No, I wanted to score. And I give Jamar credit because he admits, look, I wanted to score. He didn't say this, but they're 4-8, and he knows what's at stake in terms of his numbers, and the team wants to get his numbers up there as well. As a result of the numbers tonight, he leads in all Triple Crown categories. That would be receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. So I thought it was the numbers tonight were pretty phenomenal for the big stars of the Bengals.
Yeah, and one of the criticisms of the Zach Taylor regime has been, why can't you scheme him more targets? Why does Justin Jefferson get schemed targets? Why does Stephon Diggs, when he was in Buffalo, get schemed targets? And yet you're spread the wealth offense, which was pretty effective, mind you. But I think it does show a couple of things. That, one, they are leaning on him more and more because he is that elite of a player. The other thing, too, is I still am not so sure how healthy T. Higgins is, Mike. I don't know if any of us know how healthy T. Higgins is, right? That he's been limited in practices. He's out there playing, but he wasn't targeted a bunch tonight. And so I do wonder if some of that is they realize we'll pick our spots with T, but for the most part, the primary receiver on every situation is going to be Jamar Chase.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And T. Higgins made reference to that, Skinny, after the game, saying that I really don't want to talk about my night because I let the team down. I had no catches in the second half, and that's not me. I'm almost, it was like he was saying he was ashamed of his effort and his performance in the second half. But still, that, I guess, dovetails into an interesting conversation that was had after the game by Joe Burrow at the podium. Joe Burrow, by the way, banged up his left knee. He played the last two series of this game with a sleeve on his left knee. He admitted it was sore, and it will be sore for the next couple of days, probably a bursa situation in his knee, but will it keep him from playing going forward? He does not believe so. He's very confident he will be able to keep playing. But Joe Burrow said after the game, he thinks that the pieces are in place for the Bengals as talks continue, he said. For them, he's confident that the Bengals can get a deal done with T. Higgins. What was your reaction to that, Skinny?
Okay, so I think there's a lot of layers to this, and it kind of took us all by surprise and took us aback, and even follow-up questions I thought were answered in a fairly honest fashion by him. Did you not think there was a little symbolism tonight of sending Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase out there for the coin toss?
I don't think there's any question about that because you could tell by the way Joe Burrow talked about going out for the coin toss, the way Jamar talked about it, and certainly T was very appreciative of it. He got a text from Zach, I think, a couple hours before the game saying that we're going to send the three of you out as game captains. That might have been Zach Taylor's way of saying maybe this in prime time on a Monday night is your last moment together. Savor it.
That and also the message of, hey, this is our big three, people. This is the guys that we're going to bank on. Let's get it done. So, the comment you made about Joe, and I kind of had one of my stories about it was about, what he thought about as they're walking out. He said, I like that trio right there. We've played a lot of football together, made a lot of plays, and I'm moving this so I can read the quote. Made a lot of plays, scored a lot of touchdowns, won a lot of games. Us three are some of the best at what we do, and we're great friends and continue to love playing with each other. I realized that in the moment, and that was kind of a moment. Well, to your point, he also talked about that he feels like, there is a chance to get something done. He said, I'm confident we're going to be able to do what it takes to bring T back. And what I was asked, a follow-up was, what gives you the confidence? He said, we'll see. There's a couple things there that I do wonder. I mean, is Joe willing to restructure, as you've seen Tom Brady do multiple times, to where some of that money gets converted into a signing bonus where you can prorate it out a little bit? It takes some of the guarantees, and they're still guaranteed because you're getting in signing bonus money, but it prorates it out. That maybe they can structure that. Maybe they figure out a way to talk Jamar into structuring that, or they give Jamar an X number of guarantees and say, hey, we want to renegotiate this in another year. If you guys want to keep T around, we're going to have to keep playing some machinations with the contracts. Yes.
As Jamar said, it 100. The quote was from Jamar Chase after the game. It 100% can get done. We're just at the point where we have to play chess with it.
Yeah.
So that obviously means moving, like Skinny, like you just said, moving numbers around.
The other part to it is, and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm only surmising, but there's been rumblings that T dropped his agent, David Mulugeta. I don't know that for a fact. I don't think that's been reported officially that he has. That's been surmised in a lot of places. But if you assume not for a fact, because it's not a fact, if you assume that that's at least a possibility or may have happened, maybe that then allows the Bengals to feel like, okay, we got somebody we can negotiate with, because it feels like, and again, Mulugeta does right by his clients. He's a hardline guy. I get all those things. He did right by Jesse Bates. Yeah, and it probably soured the Bengals, but maybe some new buddy in there, and maybe that was a T decision of, listen, man, you tried your best, but I still want to be with these guys, and I know you're going to be hardline, and I just need somebody that's going to be negotiating in a different tack. Again, I don't know this at all. I'm only surmising because that rumbling's been out there that he's either changed agents or going to change agents. Well, if that's the fact, then I think that's where you also say we'll see, because Okay, now there's somebody new to talk to, somebody new to negotiate with. Again, maybe the Bengals never move off their number and it's a lower ball offer that no agent would ever take. But the we'll see was interesting, and just the whole tenor of tonight of sending the three out there together. And then Jamar balled out. I told somebody after the game, I said, it wouldn't shock me because Jamar got way more man coverage than most teams play. I don't know why, but some teams choose to try to maybe man up on both those guys with some help over the top for both those guys in a little way as opposed to shoving a bunch of coverage one way. Well, I'm going to guess Brian Callahan's going to look and go, Jamar's not going to beat us, or he's not the defensive coordinator. But the next few weeks, I do wonder if T gets a little bit healthier, if he gets force fed to the point where you go, look at what our guys do when they ball out. I mean, this team, it's not going to be good when I give you this number, but the second number I'm going to give you is a bad number. Mike, they're 4-4 when T Higgins has played this year, and they're 1-4 when he hasn't. Is that coincidence? Maybe. Maybe it's because of the opponents they've played against when T has played, but we've seen what these guys do when they've played together healthy and fed off each other. And now moving into their prime. I mean, Jamar Chase is getting better if that's possible. I think honestly, if you look at T's per game numbers, Mike, T's per game numbers this year are the best of his career. Now, he's been hurt, so he's missed a bunch of games, but his per game numbers have been the best of his career. So they're just continuing to ascend. Listen, I'm in the camp that says, if you guys can find a way to do this, great. You need to have money allocated to fix a whole lot of crap on the other side of the football. But it just felt very symbolic tonight of all the conversation, those dudes going out there, and where this is trying to go for all three.
So at Jamar Chase's press conference, Skinny, and I think you were there for this.
Yep, I was.
Asked Jamar about running it back. Would you be open to the possibility, or have you even thought about what it would be like at least to get one more year? Give me one more year with Jamar, T, and Joe Burrow. And he said, yeah, it has crossed my mind, and it crossed his mind right before being sent out for the coin flip. And right after that, when the three of them went back to the sideline, it crossed his mind because it was such a seminal moment of the evening. And he also said, which I thought was pretty significant words, when Jamar Chase said in that same quote, I wish I could pay T out of my own pocket.
Yep.
Because I want him as a teammate to eternity.
Yes, correct. I wish I could sign T myself and have him here with me for eternity.
Those are powerful words.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Absolutely. So it felt like they had a card to play tonight in this regard, all of them. And I don't know if you play that card if you lose that game, right? But you were able to play that card because you found a way to win that game. And it felt like they decided, this is the moment we're playing the card. This is the moment we're going to slap it down and go, guys, we all want to be back. You can make it work. We're going to try to make it work with you. Let's make it work.
So about Jamar Chase, it was interesting because Joe Burrow said, again, about Jamar, pay him whatever he wants. He's worth that and more. I mean, it's no shock here, Skinny. We're not breaking news, but I think Joe Burrow knows he is not the quarterback with the numbers he has without Jamar Chase. And it's also interesting, and I think Paul Dehner Jr. asked this question. Have you ever thought about what it would be like not playing with Jamar? And he said, no, I never have not played with Jamar, and I hope I never will.
Yeah, he said, we feed off each other. We make each other better. We're both really smart players. It is tough to take that away when you have a really smart receiver that you can be around, do a lot of things with. Hopefully we can play together as long as we're in this league together. And I think that's the case. I think they all realize what they mean to each other.
And I think it's good. They're a very self-aware group, the three of them together. And I have thought, ever since I started covering this team in 2021, Skinny, they are different in that, yes, Jamar has his want to put up numbers, and he wants put up great numbers because he feels he's a great player. But I've never felt any one of the three plays with a selfish tone or a bone in their body. I really don't.
I've never seen like weird hand gestures, maybe an occasional like where there's a moment of frustration, and that's fine, but it's not a consistent thing. You never hear Burrow complain about these guys coming to the huddle going, I'm open, give me the ball. And that's what receivers do, right? I mean, it's the diva group of diva groups. They all think they're always open. They all think they're underpaid. They all think they're underfed the football. And I think these guys understand that, listen, there's games where they're going to take Jamar away and T's going to thrive. There's games where teams, for whatever reason, choose to take T away and Jamar thrives. There's games where teams played it like tonight. Like, again, T didn't have a very good game tonight, and T, I think, would have had as many opportunities as Jamar, but Jamar was the primary receiver, and when Jamar gets open as the primary, guess where the ball's going? That's the other part. Don't forget, this isn't Joe Burrow just force-feeding. Now, he made a forced throw. I think we would agree on the interception over the middle, and he even admitted it to us after the game that that probably was not a very good decision on his part, that he did try to force it. But if Jamar's the primary and Jamar's open, well, where's the ball going to go? And that's not a knock on the other side of the ball. And I really believe, again, I'm just living off of T's history and the fact that he's not a full participant in practices right now. He obviously isn't 100% physically. So if that's the case, great to have him on the field. Great that teams have to recognize, all right, he's out here, and we got to certainly pay attention to him.
Right.
But at the same time, the primary is Jamar at the moment, and let's just go to him. And there's going to be a game before this season ends, if they both stay healthy, where T is going to be the primary, and T's going to put up 8 for 145 and 2 touchdowns himself.
What did you make of Jamar Chase saying, I'm already a captain on this team?
It was interesting.
I thought it was interesting. He doesn't need the C to be regarded as a captain and a leader in that locker room.
I think he's probably right. I think he's one of those guys who literally his actions speak for themselves. He is a pro in every sense of the word. Preparation, helping others. I can't remember what press conference it was, Mike, but it was fairly recently and they all run together. It was either Joe or Zach, and I think it was Zach that talked about how Jamar will be on one side of the field in practice and even help guys on the other side of the field get lined up right. Yeah, get lined up right.
This past week, as a matter of fact, on Wednesday.
And I thought that was interesting because it shows that he's not just worried about what he's supposed to do in practice. He's making sure everybody else is on the right page to make the play work. And again, that's the epitome of a captain to me. And again, the way he leads by example. So, yeah, I do think that he is one without having to have the C or be the C. But I also think it felt like he almost wanted to say, listen, I'd be honored if you guys would do this eventually for me, because I think he really would relish it.
Going back to the contractual subject, I do think that when the three of them get together like this, they are subtly, with nuance, sending a message upstairs.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, 100%. I think it's one of those that, again, I go back to I'm not enough of a salary cap guru to figure out how to make this work, but I do know, and you've seen it too, where guys have restructured contracts. Again, usually it's in the form of a signing bonus up front that takes care of some other monies, frees up some other monies. We know the salary cap is going to keep going up and up. I understand the Bengals have to write numbers on paper to look at other position groups. I mean, I think we're all in agreement of the overhaul that's needed on defense. That's not going to come through the 2025 draft. You hope some of it does, and you hope some of the depth pieces do in the 2026 draft, but some of this is going to have to come in the form of hard cash to veterans who are good enough to have earned it, because you don't just want to go sign a bunch of stumble bums and say, hey, at least we signed some guys. No, you need to go sign some guys who can be difference makers or at least starters, and those guys cost money. So the financial machinations of this are going to be interesting to me, but it just literally felt to me like Burrow's saying, I'm going to try to make this work, because he's talked about trying to make it work. And everybody kind of pointed the finger and said, yeah, Joe, you went and got yours and you don't care. No, he got his because he deserved his, and that's the way it all worked out. But it doesn't mean he can't down the road go, hey, let's try this to make this work, to free up this kind of money. And Jamar's going to have to do the same thing too. Again, that's a whole literally put your money where your mouth is, right? That you guys have talked about this. Well, you're probably going to have to give a little in the form of, again, maybe not just the raw dollars, but the way the dollars are structured.
All right, we have to talk about a little bit about the way this game started. And it started like every other Bengal game that we have seen in the second half of the season, pretty much all season, really, Skinny. Missed tackles galore.
Ooh.
And, boy, I don't know what it is, if guys like Jordan Battle are just gambling when they shouldn't be gambling, if they're not using technique correctly. There was one play, and I forget, Dowdle, I believe, was on a reverse.
No,
field.
No, it was CeeDee Lamb on a quick screen reverse field.
That's right. CeeDee Lamb on a quick reverse. Two guys had a chance. I believe Jermaine Pratt was one and Trey Hendrickson was the other. They both whiffed badly. And we've seen Jermaine Pratt miss this year. I'd never seen Trey look that slow.
Well, that play was just weird. It was almost like he almost either didn't see it coming back his way or just gave up on it. It was like, I'm not going to tackle this guy, not now. It was weird to me, that play. And that really, I thought that was close to setting the tone for how this game was going to turn out. Like, if I can make a play, I will. If not, I'm good. And I'll give him credit. I mean, the defense, let's not forget, it got to 17 all really quickly, right, Mike? And they hold them to 3 points the rest of the way and actually had to make some stands when the offense was sputtering a little bit. So credit for them for kind of bowing up when they needed to. We agree this is not a good team and Cooper Rush is not a good quarterback, all those things. But they still had to make plays, and they did.
4th and 2, first quarter, and Cooper Rush throws a pass to CeeDee Lamb. And on replay, it looks like he's totally wide open. What happened, do you think, on that play with Mike Hilton and Josh Newton?
Yeah, so they ran a blitz. Geno Stone blitzed from his safety spot, so that took the safety out of that hole back there, which was fine. I hope those guys knew he was blitzing because it felt like Mike, once he crossed Mike's face on a corner route, Mike just stopped. And maybe it is, and this is no knock, we all love Mike Hilton, and you know, he is one of my favorites. He's one of my favorite locker room guys. When he's right, there's nobody more physical, especially for his size. He's never going to be and never was a great cover guy, but he was always an adequate cover guy. It almost looked like he just realized this guy just crossed my face. I got no chance to catch up. Okay. And I don't mean that to sound like Mike quit. It was literally, I think, one of those ones where you just got out athlete and you realize I can't catch up.
Right. And if I catch up and commit a penalty, that's worse.
Yeah, right.
At that point. If you're beat, you're beat. And it's 4th and 2, and you're just hoping he overthrew him, and he did not. But to your point, Skinny, I actually did think the defense recovered a great deal in that second half. And, you know, it's going to be a reconstruction project in the offseason. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I mean, the last 4 drives were they only got 6 first downs. They only had 70 or 85 yards and went field goal, punt, and then turn it over on downs to end the game. You talk about finishing a game, right? And again, it finished in a lucky, weird, crazy bounce fashion. But that defense really did do a good. They finished the game by stopping them on downs. I mean, Dallas could have conceivably, with 1:01 and 3 timeouts, driven down and tied the score. We certainly saw the Los Angeles Chargers do that in less than a minute, correct? So it's been done against this defense before, and the defense didn't allow it this time. And so as much as they deserve the flack they've been given for the overall performance, credit to them for what they did at the end of this game tonight.
Big picture, Skinny. Improved 5. They have Tennessee 2-11, I believe. No, 3-10.
3-10, yes.
In Nashville, 3-10 in Nashville this Sunday. Then they have the Cleveland Browns at Paycor in 2 weeks. Realistic chance that the Bengals could be 7-8 going into that game with Denver. Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback, at Paycor the last weekend in December.
I mean, you still, as goofy as it sounds, have a shot for a winning record. It's probably not going to be enough to get you to the playoffs, and it's hollow. I think, Joe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on the exact quote, I have it, and my computer just behind me just shut down, but it was something along the lines of, you know, in the grand scheme, this was kind of a meaningless win. So I think they've resigned themselves to the fact that they're not going to be a playoff team. Right. But at the same time, you get to 8-8, you just don't know how things shake out. You're still technically, mathematically alive. Goofier things have happened. We've seen seasons fall apart. We're like, how did that team find a way to get in? Listen, I'm not there to give you the pipe dream that that's going to happen, because then you still have to go to Pittsburgh, which could be playing for a seed, could be playing for the division. There could be a lot on the line for them. And so that becomes an extraordinarily tough game. But you're right. I think the shame of that would be if you get to that 8-8, what that could have been going to the Pittsburgh game, 10-6, 11-5, a couple of games. That's the part for me. That being said, there's a part of me that thinks don't get to that point and give yourself the false hope that everything's all right, because it's not. There are major things that need to be fixed on the defensive side of the ball and up front offensively, especially from guard to guard. You found, I think, a cornerstone running back in Chase Brown. Can you keep T. Higgins is a cornerstone. I think those are a lot of questions for the offseason that are going to be interesting to me. But the part of me, I get you want to fight for a winning record. It's a big deal for Mike Tomlin. This would be a 4th straight winning record if they were to get to it for Zach Taylor. I don't think you poo-poo that by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, just don't let that be a false sense of really all the things that you need to do in this offseason.
All right, it was certainly an eventful night here, Skinny, in Dallas. That's why these games are so weirdly interesting when you think the team is out of it. A night like tonight happens where we're rekindling, if you will, talk about T. Higgins somehow coming back to the Bengals
Crazy.
in 2025. That was not, as they say, Skinny, on the bingo card coming into this game at all. I didn't see that coming. It's interesting. I'm not saying it's going to happen. There are a lot of things financially and cap-wise that would have to be really ruminated over and really have to be structured. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just saying, but and you'll agree with this, I think, Mike. Joe Burrow doesn't say things without it being calculated, right? He just doesn't. Right. So I don't think he'd let that door be open to give fans hope that it could happen if he didn't believe in his heart of hearts or have direct knowledge that there's a real possibility that it can happen. Again, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. I mean, things could always get to the point of we're at an impasse again. If they want this, Bengals are offering that. The two sides shall not meet. But I don't think he says that without having a real belief that he thinks that all sides can make this happen. Not that they will, but that they can.
I'll leave you with this. Joe Burrow doesn't say that lightly and without purpose. The other side of that is we know Mike Brown loves his receivers, and he loves players who have demonstrated production at a very, very high level with his team. If Mike Brown decided he wants Jamar Chase and T. Higgins together with Joe Burrow, I think he would tell his daughter Katie and Troy to find
make it
a
happen
way to make it work. Yeah,
agreed.
So that'll wrap it up here. Before we do that, Skinny, what are you working on?
Yeah, so I wrote a piece. I wasn't planning on doing. I usually do a column after the game, kind of an analysis column, which I'm kind of writing on. This team kind of deserved a break, and they should enjoy what happened tonight. You know, all the goofy things that have happened, and just a goofy way the break happened circumstance. That's the column. But then, because of what you mentioned, what turned out to be kind of a news story of the night, I ended up writing another piece on the whole unfolding of what Joe Burrow said and the reaction from Jamar Chase and the slight reaction from T. Higgins as well. His comment of expletive deleted. Joe says it's going to happen. Maybe it will.
Yeah, that's a good way to leave this on, Skinny. That's a good note to leave this podcast on. It's been a kind of a surreal night here in Dallas with some news on the field, but mostly off the field after the game. All of Skinny's terrific content, of course, as always, can be found at local12.com. Follow him on the X at local12skinny. Correct?
Correct. And tell him where you find your work, Mikey.
I will do that. Thanks for the setup there, Skinny. You can follow me at on this very channel, youtube.com/@JungleWarPod, on the X at Trags, TRAGS, and as always, online, CLNS with a Y.com. That'll be a wrap here at AT&T Stadium. The Bengals win it 27-20 over the Dallas Cowboys. They improve to 5-8. They have Brian Callahan's Tennessee Titans up next on Sunday in Nashville. Until this Sunday, he is Richard Skinner of local12.com. My name is Mike Petraglia, Trags. Thanks for watching this episode of the Jungle Roar Skinny Bengals postgame pod.